Today we're going to be taking a look at what I consider to be the strongest class so far. Granted, endgame Paragon levels and perks that you might acquire on the Druid and other classes are yet to be determined, but at the moment, the Necromancer is coming in at the best character at the moment. The thing that makes the Necro so powerful right now is that even at low level, he can have really good defense and offense at the same time. Every other character really has offense or defense. No character really has both. But the Necro does. The Necro can have up to 6 regular skeletons, but the build that I use, and I'll show you that in a moment, uses 5 Reaper skeletons, 5 Ice Mages, and 1 Golem. So that is a total of 11 companions pulling aggro. With some perks, we're going to become damn near invincible, only having to dodge a couple different attacks. I've stayed in front of most bosses just going toe to toe. I don't even look at my health bar anymore. Like, I never heal. That's how powerful this build is. So personally, I think this is the best starting class. It doesn't take many levels to become quite powerful, and once you get all these legendary aspects in line, you are putting in so much work and you're going to feel so tanky. So I'm going to start this build by showing you the skill points. I'll go into the first 27 I spent, as well as show you how to spend like the next 15 whatever. So I started with Decompose for the essence. It's very easy to get essence. It creates corpses, which is even more important. We gain essence right here when something that we are decomposing dies, which allows us to start going into our abilities again. Now I chose slow, but very late game. Probably will go to the minion ones after I have all those perks. But in the beginning, you're not really going to be able to invest in just doing all damage with minions and have an OP build. You're going to have to add that mid-game. So we took the 3 points in there just to progress forward. I took 1 point in the extra essence to get a little bit extra damage here. Skills cost a little bit more, but that's fine. You actually get this kind of like 25, 27. Go back and buy that. What you want to do is get a couple of points in Blight, slow the enemies down, and you can either do your minions deal more damage or immobilize. They're both fine, but the way that we spam Blight, I do highly recommend the Supernatural Blight. Both are good. Supernatural Blight is just better though. Next, we're going to be taking Hewed Flesh. Our damage has a 12% chance of spawning a corpse at the target location, but the time that we do need it most is boss fights, so that chance is doubled, allowing us to get corpses even when there's limited enemies to get corpses off. Next, you're going to be taking 5 levels of Corpse Explosion until you get the legendary aspect for able to instantly use the Corpse Explosion without actually having the skill in one of your slots. You're going to have the Corpse Explosion skill equipped. And we're going to take the radius is increased. And Corpse Explosion becomes a darkness skill. And instead of exploding, releases shadow damage. Because we do slightly more damage over time. Now, the Plague Corpse Explosion is faster for the mobs. But once we start wanting to kill all the elites and the bosses as well, we want more damage, and this damage does stack. So if you use Blight like 5 times in a row, 10 times in a row, I'll show you how to use it 10 times in a row, then all that damage stacks, and within 6 seconds they're taking like 6,000 damage. So later we're going to be taking 1 copy of Blood Mist once we have the ability, and I'll show you that. This is just to activate Corpse Explosion. Late game, obviously you're going to upgrade anything that's level 1. As well as for this one, you will go with Overpowered, even though we have limited Overpower, and we'll go into Blood Mist leaves a corpse behind, because there's just a couple of extra corpses on the board. Next, I put 2 and consume a corpse, generate 6 essence. This is also for the combo. I'll show you in a moment. You can really get away with one. One will fill your essence from nothing to full on a good explosion. 2 just helps those okay explosions go from nothing to full. And you'll see what that's like in a moment. Moving on, we're not really taking anything over here. Late game, you can go into the shadow tree. The shadow tree, or darkness tree, isn't that great, but you know, it is something. So late game, you will add that. And we're going to take 1 copy of Blood Wave. So we do have an ultimate ability. It has a pretty good cooldown. Probably get a little cooldown reduction in the build somehow anyway. Mine is at like 10%. And it's really not a bad cooldown for a quick little ability that does damage and knocks back enemies. Plus, once you get it upgraded, you get 3 health orbs, and it slows enemies by 50% for 4.23 seconds, which is actually really good. So for the skeletons, you can start off with taking 5 on the skirmishers, and then we're going to be taking the reapers that do an attack forming a corpse, because we want more corpses. Plus, the reapers do really good damage. And we do occasionally attack immobilized, slowed, stunned, or vulnerable enemies quite frequently, which reduces their powerful cooldown, the cooldown of their powerful attack. So that's really easy to actually acquire, especially if you're playing in a multiplayer game where everybody's afflicting ailments. Next, for the shadow mages, or skeleton mages, we're going to be taking the cold one, and when their primary attack lands, we gain 2 essence. Once we got 5 of them, if they all attack at once, then we get 10 essence. It's just a way when we're in heavy battles and they're all fighting, it just allows us to use our abilities even more. Next, we're going to be taking Golem, and we want each time your bone golem takes up to 20% of its maximum life and damage, it sheds a corpse, because the other one really isn't that great, and we want more corpses. Moving on to the armor, well, I do have all the legendary aspects I want to show you. I don't have like every white bonus perfectly aligned. The game's been out for 4 days. That's just not possible when you do all the characters already 225. But some of the good ones are thorns, because we will be in the mix of the fights taking a lot of hits. We're not really trying to evade that much, especially once we got like half of what I show you here. Then we got damage reduction is good, resistance to all elements, total armor. If you're not going to get resistance to all elements, prioritize freeze so you don't get frozen. 1 rank to corpse explosion, or 1 rank to all corpse skills is really good, because that is our top tier damage. And total armor isn't bad. Life on kill, cooldown on essence cost. 1 movement speed is about all you need. Would go with the 2 max evade charge. Core skill damage is good. You can really go toe to toe with most of the bosses, and at least after you get going, just stand in front of them. So damage to close enemies is okay, especially if you know when to evade the one or the few attacks that actually will do damage. But for the most part, if you want to just spam a heal or 2 to take down the enemy instead, that's what I do. I just stand in front of them and annihilate them. Lucky hit chance to execute injured non-elites is great, but you get the idea on that. Let's jump into what's really a question, the legendary aspects. So we want the maximum number of skeleton warriors is increased by 2. That's just more aggro and damage for us. We gain armor when we're dealing damage, because we have multiple moves that are hitting so many enemies at once. Every time we do that, we're racking up a couple 100+ armor instantly. Blood Mist triggers corpse explosion on surrounding corpses. When Blood Mist detonates a corpse, its cooldown is reduced. So this is how we trigger our corpse explosion without having the skill equipped. And if we have several corpses laying around, Then when we use this, we instantly get the ability to use it again. Obviously, you don't want to instantly use it again because you just detonated all the corpses. You got to get more corpses first. Next, because we will be spamming skills, we have skills grant damage reduction. Next, we have Blight's defiled area when spawned, and this pulls enemies. It doesn't pull in a lot of enemies, but it pulls in a little bit, and the more you keep pulling in while you're spamming it, the more that are taking damage. So this one isn't like a top tier bonus. There might be one better later, but it's pretty damn decent. Next, we have skills up to 28% increased damage based on our available primary resource. Because when played strategically, for the most part, we're getting our essence right back. We're not sitting at low essence too often. So we do get a little bit of extra damage right there. Especially when we're in a heavy battle, we got all our mages giving us energy. We can potentially sit at full essence for a few seconds and spam attacks. And that just gives us 30% extra damage while we're doing that, which is huge. Next, we have damaging an elite enemy grants you a barrier absorbing up to X amount of damage depending on the level and the RNG that you get for that gear on that level. This is like a must-have regardless of what character you're playing. That's just the best overall one in my opinion. That's universal. And because you do actually want thorns, and there is a perk in the skill tree you should be getting later too for an extra 100 thorns. Right now I have 300 thorns. I didn't even put into the perks in the skill tree. This is a character that actually kind of feels like you're playing like a barbarian a little bit, but you're a necro. You're playing both. You are definitely that tank build, and you can sit there and take those hits. So thorns is huge. Now this one is a little bit questionable. I actually recommend putting the bubble instead of this, but this one is fine as well. I accidentally did not realize that the bubble could not go on this, and this was the last piece of gear I was doing, so I couldn't put it here. So I have Decompose, can chain up to 2 additional targets. This one is fine, definitely worth putting on for a while you do the build. You're not killing too many enemies that are decomposed, especially once you get this build going. So this is actually really nice if you get it early, but late you're probably going to want to swap that out. Next, we have the maximum number of skeleton mages increased by 2. Definitely want more aggro, and that's just free damage. So for our weapon, we want basically the wand or the scythe, very high damage wand or scythe with good perks on it. And for our shield, we want thorns, ideally. High thorns, life on kill, critical strike chance. Like I have about 20% critical strike chance because we're hitting so many enemies at once. It's not really a critical strike build. I just put it in there to get the number up a little bit. You could put more cost reduction, or you could put more life. A couple other different ways you could go, but one thing you really don't need is attack speed or overpowered damage in the build. And let me see right here. Don't need crowd control at all. That actually does no benefit. Maximum essence really isn't what you want. Cost reduction is what you want. You don't really need much cooldown reduction. A little bit doesn't hurt. Just in case you fuck up with the spamming the ability, you don't have to sit and wait 20 seconds to use your next corpse explosion. Also, it reduces the time of the golem. And the golem's ability for the aggro is pretty huge. The range that it gets is really wide, like off the map wide. And that is my build for the Necro. I am sitting, like, this dude is, in my opinion, definitely hands down at the moment the most powerful character in the game. There are builds for every character. There are multiple builds for every character. Some are playable. All of them are playable. Some are more OP than others. But this dude has the tank and he has the damage. He has the I'll stand in the fucking boss's face and just go toe to toe with you and still put out really good damage. He can kill the fastest in the game with his explosions. Like, I thought the sorcerer with her ultimate ability, like, he matches that plus on a good explosion. So, I mean, in my opinion, there is no opinion. that he is the best character. That's just my opinion. Anyway, that is who I think is the best character currently in the game. Things might change end game with the Paragon, but he is a strong contender right now for finishing the most powerful player in the game, or character. And that is currently my build for him, and how you should be spending the early perks, and how you should be building up your character early in the game while we see what unlocks very late game. If you liked the video, leave a like, comment, share. It helps others find the video. I hope this helped.